Screen. Yeah, that's there's all right. Next one over. That's the all the files for one of the SD drive.
Okay, welcome everybody. Today is July 13th. It is a Monday. Today is a voting session. The Westchester Borough Planning Commission. With us today is Alan Burke, Quincy Burrow, Thomas Doherty, Sheila McCarr, Matt Platt, Jim Sherry. See Steve Mitten also joining us. Are there any announcements?
Two things. We are still having issues with people getting stuff off of the website and sending bills to individuals. We are continuing to effort a way to get that done. Unfortunately, with everything that's going on in the program, now we have Bill has not have enough time to sit down with us and get that taken care of. So we'll not be uploading anything to the website at this point other than the agenda until we can come up with another solution. Second of all, we'll have continuation from last month's meeting in regards to 44 East Evans Street. I wasn't here last month, so I was able to give the report for the zoning. That will be held on the 27th of July at 6 o'clock in council chambers.
I'm sorry,
July 27th.
And I'm looking at it right here, but is there a quick notes? Can you remind me what question?
That was the illegal gym.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to change the use from an auto body to a gym, and they did not go through the process.
Thomas, do you have anything from Harv to report?
She would be joining us.
Yeah, she did have another meeting, and once she gets out of that, she might be popping. So
She said there's nothing to convey directly from her, but she'll talk with us about the museum.
They did not have a meeting last first time.
That's right.
Forever.
well, we gave her something to do with the 410 South High Street project. Okay, approval of. Oh, I'm sorry. Were there any comments from citizens on anything other than what's on the agenda? Do you have any comments? No. Okay, very good. All right, yeah, approval of the May 11th.
We did May, I
June.
should
I sent a couple very minor.
Minor edits.
Very
Just
Any other comments from that? No?
receive it.
Gonna move to,
so
second.
Aye.
Good. Just
Yes.
Steve the president. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Matt Hazley is not here. We'll come back to it in case he shows up, but I think that's still worth some discussion.
Is he working with Glenn Palmer?
On 339 Skate Street? No.
Okay.
No. And that is, I'm just gonna push him back to the bottom and we'll see if we don't get to what we do, then we'll talk about it. Okay. But no, that was 339 West Gate Street. That was just the lots. 410 South High Street. I know that Matt, you were out and Thomas, you were out. So I think what I wanted to do, Pete Stad and crew, Ryan, they're not here this week. They're not going to be you. Basically, the biggest outstanding issue is a review letter from the borough architect that was a requirement that was added with the new use group in the town center. That one of the conditions was a review by the borough architect. I did have an opportunity to speak with Carol Quigley about that. So if she is available, she will be joining us later today, and maybe having a discussion and getting some input. But I do think that project was worth again, just reviewing quickly.
And can I just clarify that the requirement for our architect to look at that is within the unified language.
It was,
That is correct.
Yes. It is.
Okay.
Those are all the things. That was something that Tom Estee also brought up today in an email out to, I don't know if everybody got that, or just was Jim himself. But he did say that we can't move this to be voted on until all of the parts have been submitted, including stuff.
I think just in a big picture way, we're just gonna take a look at the presentation that was provided, and this, in the least of it, is an opportunity for it to go online, since the audio and the visuals were a little compromised in the work session. And so we're just gonna kind of walk through it. When I did talk to Carol Quigley, what I did talk about was the intent to review the architecture in order that it's consistent and sympathetic with the historic scale and quality of the historic neighborhoods within the borough. So it was not necessarily literally a hard review, and it wasn't for compliance with hard requirements as much as it was an opportunity for the borough to have an opinion on the actual design and architecture that's actually being developed in the borough. So in the first one here, again, there was no architects, they're out of Philadelphia. They did a nice job laying out a presentation. First piece of that presentation was they visited, a couple of them from their office, visited the property, took a look around at the context. So it's photographs of some of the surrounding buildings. Always nice to step back, even though we live here, we see these buildings all the time, but just to pull them apart and just take a look at, you know, what are we actually looking at with some of these buildings here that we kind of see in the context of the ground. So it is interesting to see what they selected, not being of the borough. And then, so they took images directly.
Architect. Aren't from the borough, from Philadelphia. Took the time
Correct.
to go through the neighborhood,
Right.
look at what the architecture really was. It's an effort. Anyway.
Sure. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah. So I think just going through that process and having that laid out and walking through with them. They also went down to the town center. So not only did they visit buildings immediately adjacent to the site, looked at the site, but they also went down to the town center and took a couple images of buildings, I think that they felt were noteworthy, or they struck them as something that would be appropriate to pick up. They also did some nice shadow studies. So usually we have to ask for these, but these were presented right up front. I think what's very nice about both the summer and the winter is really when you look at where those shadows are cast, they really only impact their own property, or at worst case, in the summer, High Street, with putting anything in the shadow. They did have also some floor plans that they showed. There were two types of buildings. The first type was a 2-unit or a stacked attached townhome. So it's the first floor and the second floor are 1 unit, and the upper floors are a second. So it's looked at that way. So the floor plans provide an opportunity to kind of see how they're split on that first floor level, where 1 garage plus 1 parking space behind it enters into 1 unit that has a kitchen, dining area. And then that has an internal stairway that has the bedrooms on the next level. The other side of that ground floor unit is the garage that comes into a stairwell that comes up to the third or fourth floor levels there. And then also has a roof deck opportunity up there to a pilot house. The other unit type was along, along Price and Dean. These were single townhouse units. They're all single family homes. It's just a type of them. These units have 2-car garage in that lower level, some flex space on that ground floor. We come up to a great room, kitchen, dining area. The third floor has 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and the fourth floor has a bedroom as well as a flex loft space, and it has a covered balcony, covered terrace up on that upper level. So those townhomes exist on Dean and Price, and those stacked are along High Street and interior around. They did include a height calculation. It's based on each building block. They provided those numbers and calculations. All buildings meet they're underneath the maximum building height of 45 feet, and all those calculations are in there. So I did, I don't know, you took a look at those. They look good. I think it actually improves the height a little bit if you look at one unit at a time, just because the average grade changed. So,
Our height expert is.
yeah.
I knew Alan would look to me for that. No, it's 45 and up.
And they did take advantage, and it is certainly within their right to. There's some appurtenances that happen up there, parapets, chimneys at the pilot house. As long as that's under 20%, it still counts. So they did a really nice job, kind of again walking through that those calculations. The first elevation they presented, along with the building materials, was on Price Street. This is the Price Street elevation. They basically showed a 3-story, a cornice line, very strong element there, and this a 3-story part. Again, from Price Street side, the floor level is a little elevated, so each one of these has a stair and stoop outside of the entry. Again, these are all one unit. I think they did a nice job with the spacing and patterns of windows, enough that it wasn't monotonous, but they had maybe 3 different window on the same floor plans. The buildings are brick, and then that 4th floor that they recessed that higher element and switched building materials to a maybe a vertical. And then that same unit from interior to the development are 2-car garages. The 2 floors there again, the cornice line at the 3rd floor, which helps reduce that the perception of that. This is the side of the ends of those units. This is the stacked units. This is units along High Street. They have a beautiful entry point. It's a recessed, like an alcove or vestibule. This arched opening here that steps back. There's 2 doorways in behind that, and a nice protruding bay. Stories, and they change in building materials above that. On the backside of the entrance, that upper unit has that covered recessed terrace that overlooks again interior to the development. And again, in a very similar way, this is the ends of these buildings. The other one is kind of after that, kind of similar as it walks through both the stacked and the towns, but gives you a good opportunity to take a look at these elevations. Again, these are presently being reviewed by Carol Wigley, our borough architect. So what's nice about them is in this side elevation shows it fairly clearly. It's brick on every surface that you can see outside of the development. When you turn the corners, they bring that brick back and switch to a cement board siding that's in the same color way as the brick is. So it's a pretty minor change, but I think that it meets our intent, which is the bottom three, feels like a three-story building. It's really a four. It has some implication, and we'll see what Carol has to say in her letter, but I at least wanted to run through this presentation for anybody that hasn't seen it. And I think just to have this one as a real quick discussion relative to what everyone's thoughts are. Relative to a motion on this one, we did get a month extension, so we will be making a motion in August. I think it's a very tight time frame between that voting session and the next smart growth meeting, and then the next borough council meeting. So what I want to do is, if we can, notify both those groups that a motion will be made in August, and then if this project can be put on the agenda.
It's already on the agenda for smart growth. The work session and the voting session.
Very good. Thank you. I think, is there any comments or questions why the review should be discussed? Thomas?
Yeah, thanks. Unfortunately, I was unable to make it last, and because I wasn't gonna make it, I didn't actually look at this file today when I downloaded all the files and was going through this. I just want to say I was just so pleased to see the quality of the architecture here. I don't know these, I haven't seen these architects before, but just flipping through, I wanted to start with the height. You saw there's height calculations. The quality, obviously, is just like the way they put their sheets together. That was really nice. But also, this is exactly what we were looking for and what we were not getting in the previous. This is everything that was wrong with this large, massive building. You're measuring the height for like one building, and you're getting that gradual stepping down here. I just want to say a couple of things. I just really appreciated that. The brick that they're using a molded Glengarry. That's a local producer who got planted up by I think Erie, that does this plum color, and it's the full sand molded brick, so it's going to be great material. As you said, it wraps all the sides there. The entrances are just, I think they're going to contribute to the character of the borough, which is just really exciting. So I didn't have high hopes for this. Not that I was down on it, but they're stacked two-family structures. There are a lot of ways that this could be done poorly, and it just exceeded my expectations. So I was excited to open up this file and get through this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I said to Pete that wasn't in last week's meeting was, if you could go back to the architect and potentially on those stacked units, find a spot that maybe a vertical shaft might be able to be added to open it up for older people, downsize, like if they had an option to be able to get a lift.
Right.
Because those stacked units, you're going to walk from that garage level up 2 floors before you find a living level.
Yeah.
Which is okay if you're young like me, but if you as you age, and the individuals that this would open it up to is potentially an aging group, so he was going to take that back to the architect. But I thought the units were well designed, well conceived, and then there's a layer there. You can see it's developed past just a quick photo on a piece of paper. There are pieces in this when you really study. I think the stoops and these entrances, the bay windows, I think are fantastic. I think if you're walking along this street and see that entrance, I think just that a little bit of a buffer to that alley, but a break in the building line so you get some sky in there, and then some texture with the bays, and then the recesses. I think it's great that you just give up a little bit to add so much quality to that building. It's so much better than if it was on that base there.
And what's the comparable unit count with this one?
It's 42 units. So it's, I believe it's 14 and 14, so it's 14 and 28, which gets you. And I think another thing that was prior to this, I mean, with 128 units. Yeah.
The
So
other thing,
we're about a third.
the other thing that does bring us actually possibly to EDUs for sanitary in September, such.
Okay.
So because right now, we have 20 that are available for this area. And we started to get used up, but by September, we should be able to 40 or 50. Because of this downsizing from 28 down.
I also thought if I can find the landscaping plan, because I think the site plan, what Patrick did was very nice. I think most notable is they added a verge or they added a strip of plantings behind that curb line. So that they narrowed up the sidewalk along High Street. So that now has curb plantings and then a 5 to 6 foot wide brick sidewalk. I know there is positives and negatives about doing that. I think it gives the trees a better chance. I think it opens up a little bit more ground. I think it reduces the amount of pedestrians trying to cross in the middle of the block. I think it narrows up High Street and kind of presents a smaller visual of just pavement from building to building there. So I think that, especially on the opposite side of the block, I think adding up some green here is really nice. New street trees around the entire perimeter along with the street lights. And I thought they did a great job with that corner as well. When we get down to the bottom of that presentation, this is where those renderings are. Not in here, are they?
Yeah, that was one of my questions.
To the Dropbox. Is it in here?
Should be, everything should be on. We took whatever was in the Dropbox.
I don't think it was in the file for. Oh, yeah.
It's,
You know,
yeah, I said it. It's,
They were going to the.
so it's still not in here. Those renderings were, very helpful. Did you see the three-dimensional render?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. Do we have the?
We don't have that. Everything that we have is
Okay. Unless it's, there was a revised presentation. This still says 72, so they added one that was later. Okay, well, I'll resend it out. I think you have it, Thomas.
Yeah.
You have it. If that's something we can throw on here, good. I'm just trying to at least get this because it wasn't available on the working session. But I think that corner and the landscaping between everything, I think it, and then they had that courtyard nicely designed. It's a little bit, something was off with the rendering here on this side. There was plantings up against the homes and some sidewalks away from it. The rendering just showed a sidewalk over to the house. So that was the only one that was needed some catch up there. But I think that was the bulk of that presentation. Okay, so again, no motion with it. We'll probably look for Carol's comments. Are there any
well, I just more comments I was going to ask. Tom Committa had sent out his updated comments based on their responses. I believe he sent it out the day of the meeting, after the meeting. So I didn't hear those addressed were discussed during the working meeting. So, but I didn't know if they had any plans to respond to those before we vote next month. I assume they will.
It's gonna be a part of the requirement, but also those are still deferring to, borough engineers.
Yes.
They see renderings.
Most of them were. There were updates to the impact assessment report to comply with the zoning. I didn't hear the overhead wires on Price Street talked about relative to the large street trees that we want to put in, but if the wires are there,
Well,
there's no,
I think those two, and I think what I wanted to do was find that ordinance number and cite that specific what the requirement to put underground utilities in, because it is in our ordinance. So I think
In their ordinance, in their saldo, or
I think that I'll find it, it's our summit.
because I think it would.
but yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that's still, they always then default to Pico though, but this is a traffic signal line, I think exclusively, so I'm hoping that's not an issue. Anyway, I just need to discuss, so I just want to make sure that that is, that will be addressed. Other than that, I agree, it's most details. That's it.
I'll talk to Tom Committee and see, because his comments also came out before the renderings.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, the renderings show some trees on the side, but we won't actually get them unless we get those overhead lines down. And that was that was discussed in somebody else's comments too.
Sure.
I did appreciate the woman who, I don't remember her name, who stood up and asked about deliveries on High Street, because that was one of my comments. They kind of said, well, the residents will take care of that because they'll tell them to come around the back. And I don't necessarily believe that. I would love to see signage included along High Street that says no stopping, whatever, no parking. Some kind of signage that
Like a no.
discourages, no loading zone, whatever it is, because we don't want Amazon trucks on High Street stopping in front of those places, and they will do it whether the residents say something or not. But there are no signs currently there planned for that. So, like a sign like that, but not that. Anyway, that was one of my thoughts too, because I do want to encourage deliveries to the interior. We don't want people stopping even briefly on High Street.
I can bring that up with Public Works too.
Yeah, and I know that's not necessarily exclusively their job, but I'm hoping that that's something we could discuss.
I just have to say, I
Yeah.
feel like that as much as Public Works for signage, it's about talking to the police and enforcing that. Because
I don't disagree.
without enforcement, who cares?
And that was brought up a couple times with different subjects last night, so I do understand that. I just think this is obviously a major improvement. Okay.
Yeah, that's something that we can do as a street assessment.
Yeah.
And when
Right.
they do it, they set the first, then for the signs.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, personally, I'm not a big fan of just signing everything. So at some point, you just get done reading the signs. It's just,
Oh, I'd love to stripe, but I mean, they're not gonna stripe it because that's already done, I want something, and I don't like a bunch of signs either. Although a few signs with nice trees would be it still should be better than what we got now. But I'd rather, from a safety standpoint and traffic standpoint. One thing that I think it was Ann Carroll brought it up, maybe that was on Walnut Street, but maybe CJ brought it up. Who I didn't hear it last week, were the length of the spaces within, on the rear of the Price and Dean Street townhomes, I think are small. Or, well, no, I guess it was the main ones on High Street. People with trucks and SUVs, it's gonna be tight. Like, we showed turning templates, but those didn't have vehicles parked in all those spots where they're gonna have some stacked parking, I think.
Yeah. I mean,
It's gonna be tight.
it looked clear. I don't disagree with you, but it is a tough one in any of the alleys. And I mean, there's creative parking going on in the alleys.
Yeah.
I do think that in conversations with them, their thoughts were, there's potential third cars in behind the two-car garages for those residents. And they just felt,
I was even thinking though on the smaller ones, so when any trash truck or emergency truck pulls in, yeah, but keep going over where they could come in off of Price. If you look at the turning templates, they're really close to some of those duplexes, where they're going to have stacked parking.
they was turning tables, right?
Yeah, they're in there somewhere. But if you don't have a regular sized car and you have a truck or something with a bike rack in the back, I'm just saying, it's gonna be tight. Similar to the snow removal comment by CJ, it's like, there's not a lot of room for anything back here, so. I don't know that they can design any more length into those spots, but it's a concern I had after looking at the turning template, thinking about some of the other comments we received. And I think that's all I had.
Okay. Just looking for those turning templates.
Yeah, I think they're towards the end. Or maybe that was the seventh. And my last question I was gonna ask, and this is because it was brought up and it's always brought up, is, left turns out of Price, Boxwood Alley being widened, the traffic on both sides. I always think of Price. I know Dean Street was brought up last week with trucks everywhere. Can we reduce the parking on Price Street by one spot west of Boxwood Alley on both sides, with striping or something? The curb is painted yellow there for a brief little bit, I think. If you're looking from Boxwood Alley west, yeah, right. Well, yeah, see that? That is not really that much. I don't think it's even really a car lot, and maybe that's because the paint wore out. But I mean, once it's done, to have maybe proper painting on that prohibits parking there, or at least discourages it, to give a little bit more sightline for people who are going to try to make that left to get onto Price and then north on High, presumably would help. And that goes for the other side of Price too, even though that's not going to affect this development. There's always people parked right up to the alley on the other side of Price Street as well. Yeah, right there. That's many times there's been like a truck or something. There was a truck there for weeks parked right up to Boxwood, and that just makes that bottleneck worse, and it stalls traffic. I mean, it's always going to be a bottleneck because those homes don't have rear parking. I get that, but if we could grab a spot on either side, that would help visibility wherever we can, in my mind. So that might be that's again a borough,
Yeah,
borough issue, not necessarily applicant issue.
that seems so clear. But the
But that's up.
Aaron, how does this length determine? Why isn't it a full car length, or what is?
I can't answer that question.
It is, there is
There is
a
a
rule
standardized,
about that, and that looks very short.
yeah,
On both sides.
Yeah.
there's supposed to be, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's 25 feet from a controlled intersection, and for whatever reason, I think it's either 15 or 25 from an uncontrolled.
Right.
Well, it also have to ensure allowing the side lanes and side channels. Right, like you could run the side triangle diagram on, say, vehicles can't get away with that.
They're already asking for a waiver on that though there, so I don't know if that nullifies that.
There should be at least.
But yeah,
Like, these-
I think that there is, for some reason, in my patronize, I heard something about like a minimum 15 feet from an uncontrolled.
Is that something we can find?
Yeah, it's definitely.
It's,
I just didn't.
it's in writing somewhere, I know that.
Well, my preference is that we are able to cite specific ordinances for them to comply.
I'll make a note of it and try to get that done this week.
I can look.
I just sent you the utilities.
You found it?
The salad, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just sent you the salad language.
What section is that, Thomas?
I copied you an email.
Okay, excellent.
I didn't memorize. Just say it. Don't ask for too much.
9737 has two paragraphs, and then there's a diagram.
Okay. I think that's a fair ask. Parking for a clear triangle. I think there's clear sight lines there. Good ask, good ask.
Yeah,
So you have
definitely.
utilities, deliveries, and Sheila? Thoughts?
On this, no. Sorry.
I think we're a lot better. For deliveries from the 127 alcohol achievement service. Deliveries, the front of that. There's gonna be 100 daily. You can, as a resident, request deliveries in the rear from Amazon or from apps and food deliveries as well. Whether they do it or not is of course another issue. Whether it's over the fence or wherever. So you can request that. So, hopefully those residents, and I think, would you want your deliveries on High Street, on your street on High Street? I'm sure it'll happen. The triangle that they wanted the relief from, was that an interior one or was that one?
I think they're the outside ones. Outside. On both.
And, I still think we're gonna have, pizza events. Traffic study wasn't an issue, but I still think it's gonna be an issue to try to get north on High Street for anybody who lives there. And whether that's gonna require light, Dean Street. But, I think that's probably the simplest that people can come out, take a right on the Dean and take a left. Going to High Street if there is a light there.
If that is a PennDOT route, PennDOT has a very specific procedure and number of lights you can have in sequence. So that would have to have PennDOT approval. And I doubt very much that they will offer, because I had to go through this once before. PennDOT only approved so many lights.
Because it's a double intersection, it just might be a double light.
It would be tight.
They're never put
Yeah,
that
they
light there.
just put one on Sharpwood.
Yeah, they're just not gonna
They're
put
not.
it. It's already a jagged.
No, PennDOT has very specific requirements.
Yeah, so there's you're taking a right and then the left on the Magnolia.
Is that what, do you live there, Jason? Do you mind me asking you? Do you know how that traffic's handled typically at a Dean? Everybody has, does anybody make that quick left?
I do.
Most people.
I don't-
No,
Magnolia
no.
side.
Well,
Magnolia.
there's a right on the.
Yeah, you just do it.
It works.
Is that the precedent way? Is there somebody?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can be done, I'm just saying.
Problem, because first of all, since they put in that swale on the north side of Dean for drainage purposes, I guess, to slow down traffic, you really don't have much sight line. I mean, it was bad before, it's a little bit better now. So trying to go right, you often get stuck. And then, of course, if there's a line of traffic, if you're trying to go left onto Magnolia, you're kind of stuck. I mean, so it's inconvenient. I don't think it's particularly dangerous. But, now you have a couple of other questions.
Sure, you are certainly welcome. As soon as we're done with the, our group here.
But, other than that, I think that the thing about this project is a real credit to Thomas. Getting something that is going to be consistent with what we've heard. That is addition. Other than this direction.
Zero to do this project, which is very cool.
Well, I wouldn't say zero, it's good, something. Thanks, Steve. Quinty? None, Al? Yeah.
First of all, just a couple of out item. It looks to me like we sent the plans to the county and they didn't answer. Are we expecting that to still happen?
It should still happen.
Yeah, that has
It has to happen.
I will look into that tomorrow, so we'll make it up for that today.
That's a good one, Alan.
I'd just be interested to know the building line or price on the building line in the buildings to the west on price. You know, this is one, nothing, the front porch, with the face of the building. Understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. I just didn't see it, and I know it's been an issue we've discussed. You know, it caused me to think about it. Shall and now, this is, you know, when we ask people to do, you know, to do a proposal today for a new development of any kind, there are reports, there are studies that it's just overwhelming. So here we've got a case where substantially reduced number of people are going to be housed. Do we really need the traffic study to tell us that? And I know things are different, but it just seems to me like learning from that, is it valuable? Is it worth? I mean, it just seems illogical that we would produce anything. We need to be really concerned. I agree. I think they did a fabulous job. The only thing that I'm concerned, and I particularly like the fact that the buildings facing, the face of the buildings facing high and D and price. They're all a little different, and they're all kind of totally different along the lines of the buildings that are around it. I think that's really remarkable and to their credit. What struck me about the renderings was that the ends of the buildings on Price and on D, the end of the building that faces onto High, less thoughtful exteriors. That's just, you know, that's what I would say. That's the weakness of the whole plan, to me. And I just wondered, yeah, that's what's going to be staring at you from. We look at this section and it looks wonderful, but then we don't look at these. So, I mean, it looks to me like they took the overall plan that was developed by some of the people in this room, put that down. Number one. Number two, did the interior, and then number three, did the exterior. And you know, I think we're historic buildings typically put a high priority an exterior that is orderly, you know, and these are orderly in my opinion. So do we need bigger trees?
Well, I'm gonna, this is a spoiler alert. When I talked to Carol Quigley, I think that is, something that's gonna be brought up in the review letter.
Okay.
And so that these elevations be studied.
I
And
really see it in the elevator. Yeah.
Sure.
And
I mean,
that is to be the only from a design standpoint.
sure.
So much.
I mean, you can see how you got here, and often in the borough, I'll just say, it ends up being a large mural or something, just to clean it up.
I give it an A, the only thing, keeping it from being an A plus. Is that was. Okay. And I think they could be remedied this. I was surprised. I think it's the first time I've ever seen. And I wonder why that is. Because the rain streets, the automobiles, they were like some of the best recreation I've seen. Where are the big ones? Question.
Yeah. They haven't moved in yet.
Huh?
They haven't moved in yet. I don't know.
Is that a trend in architecture?
No, it's just that they're rendering and they could add. It does help.
Used to be, there were no rainy streets. There were no cars whizzing by, so you could really see through them.
Yeah.
But there were people.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I think the whole question, I mean, a big part of the question.
Sure.
How big a thing is this? How is this going to look from the scales?
Mhm.
And it just made me wonder. But overall, I think much better than I had expected, even with the plan, much better than I expected. I think very skilled architects doing really wonderful work. And, I agree. Maybe it'll run off. some other direction.
Raising the bar.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I think that's really.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's sort of like in renderings when you're looking to show a street tree at the same time you're trying to show the building. There's at some level that you're like, hey, how transparent should I show the tree so I can see the building? So the people can be active.
Yeah, but you know what, I'm glad you brought that up, because on your original point about the planting, reducing sidewalks, and trees, you know, when we were doing the Amazon, endless conversations about kind of street light that we should be using and how much investment for in some places. And we sort of arrived at they need trees, because if you just put those things out there, they are gonna look. If you put, all you gotta do is put some trees in, and it'll look great, you know, so I think I understand the thing about somebody got to maintain them and all that.
Right.
But I do think that, just as I was surprised to hear, it's a potential strategy right in front of this building right here, which I think is brilliant over my eyes. I think we need both. I think we need the trees and those lights.
You did a nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you, Howard. Do you have a comment? You can come up and just say
Yeah,
your
I
name.
have a question.
Sure.
Probably should have asked two of them last week, but Mr. Clapp made a comment about the difficulty perhaps of parking large trucks or SUVs or something in tight space. So my question is, the pathway through the complex and Boxwood Alley, which is supposed to be widened, will they admit of two-way traffic? Can two cars pass each other? Because that would be, you know, you can get into and out of the complex, both from Dean and from Price. Well, what happens if somebody comes in from both sides and they're going to have to pass each other to get to their residences? And it's important, I think, for Boxwood Alley for the same reason. And there's a little bit more of a problem there. I will refer to Clinton Alley, which is not two-way, but there are places where you can switch over and let a car by. I mean, you can pull into Adele Alley, or there are garage aprons. You could pull in front of the townhouses or between the carriage houses. And even on the other side of Dean, you've got that option. It doesn't always work. But with Boxwood and that straight line, somebody here and somebody here, I don't like the idea of somebody having to back out into Price Street because they've turned in and see somebody that's 3/4 of the way down. And I think that has to be addressed. The other thing is my confusion over the whole permit parking guest pass thing. Ms. Vaccaro mentioned, I think it was on May 11th, that council had voted not to allow street permit parking and guest passes. But I don't know when that vote was taken, and I don't know which,
I'm going to clarify that that's for apartment buildings. This is not
well,
apartment.
that was, yes,
Yeah, this
okay,
is
and that was my
single.
question, because that apartment buildings, either I missed it or it wasn't mentioned, and then last week, suddenly, because they're owner occupied, I think Mr. Nagel said they have the same rights as any other property owner. Well, any other property owner doesn't necessarily get a permanent parking pass unless it's in a permanent parking area, blah, blah, blah. So what is the status of that? Is that all up in the air?
Well, my understanding is, again, they are single family homes. They should be afforded the same right as any other single family home. So if they purchase a permit, they should be given a permit. It was the multifamily apartment buildings that, especially with 128 individuals, that they were not going to be granted the opportunity to buy a permit.
Okay, well, but this is then a tightening up, because I live on Church Street where there are students who have permits.
Can I clarify what?
Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Well, I'm going to clarify and then make it more confusing. Sorry. Because it's very confusing. Permit parking is not allotted to anyone living in the borough. That's not how the permit
I know.
parking works. So if you live on High Street, for the most part, you do not have permit parking. If you're on, the parts of Darlington, there's all sorts
So
of.
I know
random-
that there are areas, only areas that have
Right.
permit parking.
So I don't know how this is going to fit in. We're gonna have to go back to parking, and go back to council, is my belief of how this is going to have to work out.
I
Well-
thought when we originally talked about this, it would only be the folks in Dean and Price that would be eligible because they're along streets that have permit parking. And that your point about High Street and the interior units, they would not be eligible to apply for and get a permit. I don't know.
My confusion about that was I thought that was stated that way because they were multifamily buildings, which I don't know that that's true. But what you're saying now, that those are on permitted streets and that is not, sounds more true.
I'm not sure. I thought that's what.
I think this has to go back. Yes.
I just make a comment real quick. Just a
Yeah.
second. The ones along Dean, excuse me, Price and Dean are single family, correct? The ones up front are still not considered multifamily,
Right.
they're considered two family. And the distinction between that is once you get to multifamily, it needs 3 or more. And there's a whole bunch of codes that come in when you get to that, such as sprinklers and other stuff like that. So I just want to make sure we're all using the correct terms. I might be a little bit of a jerk about syntax and semantics, but kind of what my whole life is about.
No, I think that is what my thing was, I thought we were talking about that concern and that is not, it doesn't apply. These are all single family units. So we have to go back to parking and ask if this whole building counts as permit, eligible.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be eligible personally, because they're for sale, single family homes in the borough. So I don't know where you draw a line and decide from now on, nobody gets that device a single home.
I think the best thing to do would be
So-
actually go to Ramsey and ask for a determination. whether it's worth it.
There are lots of single family houses in the borough that do not have permits.
They're not.
They're not.
It's a
Right.
related.
So High Street
I think
is
you
not
said-
always eligible.
Who has an address?
Well, the other part then would be simply that I think this is probably one of the first things that has to be sorted out, because there is no dedicated visitor parking in the complex. And I think residents who are contemplating perhaps buying one of these units really want to know, okay, if I have friends to dinner, what do I do with them? And even with the guest pass, when school's in session, a lot of fun. You're going to have to go probably up to a parking garage and then walk down, which is nobody's idea of a good time when you have a
Well, and that's why I was thinking, well, that's why I was thinking permanent. But the bicentennial garage is probably the closest structured parking.
But I mean, that
I
has to be
have no
made very
problem
clear
parking.
in any case.
The high is almost always got spots available on it. So these buildings come with parking. When they have guests, you know, if you come to Sharpless Street, you ask a neighbor or you know, there's 10 million ways to cheat around the systems. And there's a garage here, so I'm not worried about there.
Remember, first time house, we had 2 parking spots in the garage. I would park outside, she parked inside, we had 2 parking spots outside. Friends came over, I left and went to park
Right.
in the garage, they came and parked. The next
And
morning.
I guess that's my general, which is everybody, all of us, we all live in the borough and we all kind of deal with exactly this. Crossing down an alley that's in our alleys are maybe 10 feet wide or 12 feet wide. And when people come opposing different directions, you find a driveway, you have to pull off to the side.
There's a
It happens.
drive.
Yeah, it happens on a regular basis. I'm saying this street is wide enough that 2 vehicles in theory can pass each other. I mean, in reality can pass each other. I wouldn't be
You're
in
talking
any,
about Boxwood Alley is wide.
no, I'm talking about internal.
Okay,
stuff.
that's what. I'm-
Boxwood Alley, what they have said was that the entrance has been widened up for a wider in lane and an out. That's what they've said.
Okay.
So that's the dimension. So they've taken into their property, give it some more ground. But I'm not saying that there's not gonna be any challenges there relative to that. If you had any good rate of speed there, I'd be a little bit nervous coming down the other side.
It's not a good rate of speed. It's just being able to squeeze by or to manage it. And I realize the inconveniences. I've lived
Sure.
here for quite a while. And I guess it's because I've lived here quite a while that I
Sure.
say, if I had to go send my guests up to the bicentennial garage or put my car up there and pay $900,000 for the privilege of living here.
Well,
Wouldn't do it.
I mean, and I just looking at the map, actually, you know, the garage and university is a lot away.
Yeah.
So bicentennial would be maybe not the first choice.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to get the answer is
Yep.
because the neighborhood is concerned, especially when the school's in session.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, the report from the school is that the parking requirements always have plenty of parking.
That one in particular is
Well,
all.
but the rates or whatever are, this may be my fault, but whatever they are, aren't published. I don't think they may be generally available, but they're not generally known. And for students, yeah, but if students live, I mean, I'm on a 2-block stretch there where there are students in apartments who have parking permits and they're not gonna go down to the garage if they can find a space on the street. It's much more convenient.
Sure, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comments, questions? While you're here.
Yes, that's kind of why I came back, I'm sorry I was late, Gunnar Mossbud, down in Bradford. My concern, it is, I mean, they've done a great job of fixing this thing up. But like it or not, and it's being presented as individual houses, but like it or not, when you're gonna, first of all, their floor height is a lot higher. So they're going up 3 floors. And then the houses next to them are 3 stories also, but they're gonna be much lower. And then there's supposed to be individual houses, yet the exterior, basically what's being put up is 4 gigantic walls, 3 that are essentially 4 stories tall. And so, first of all, the individual houses, like if you go down and see, even down to Baltimore, Washington, and, row houses, everybody has their own character. This has no character on the outside. They probably gonna have more character on the inside where you don't see it. But basically, people are gonna walk around, and because there's no variation, and I grew up with my dad in his construction business, which was all commercial stuff. but to make an individual house that kind of stands out means there should be variation from house to house, whether they're attached or not. And so I think it's gonna end up looking like just a big box that's very tall and taller than it actually really is, because there's no variation of, I don't know, window heights or some delineation that each house has its kind of its own character. I don't know if it can be asked that they consider that or if it's too late for that, but I think that would go a long way for everyone aesthetically in the borough to accept. It's not gonna look like it's just a big prison box, you know?
Sure.
All exactly the same all the way around.
Right.
So that's all I wanted to mention. I don't know.
No, thank you, guys. We are having the borough architect review it, and we'll be getting a review letter from her.
Well, maybe you can say somebody said that.
Very good. She heard you. Very good, thank you.
Darrell Cook, 506 South Walnut Street, 126 bedrooms, 84 parking spaces. Not a good plan. It needs guest parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell. Okay. So maybe we can work on a motion includes all these comments prior to that. All right, 6:15, 6:17. Oh, that's gonna end at 4:10, by the way. So 6:15, 6:17 South Walnut Street. Hi, Ted. Hello. Thank you so much.
We don't have much.
Right.
I wasn't here last time, but I mean, since last time, Aaron issued a zoning determination letter, and we are working on our application for a variance on the parking in the front yard along Willow Alley. I don't think I need to review it, but Willow Alley is considered front yard because the house is fronting. The new houses are fronting on Willow. So yeah, we're working on that application. I think we're probably gonna have it in within the next day or so.
It might be already in, I don't, yeah.
And, other than that, that's,
What's up?
Did not see it today.
okay, yeah, so you'll see it very soon.
Yeah, probably.
There's nothing new that we've completed. We did get a Pinoni review letter at the end of the day today, which I very quickly went through, and I don't see any big issues in it, but I did not get a chance to really go into that. So yeah, do you have anything else to add? Or?
The only thing I'd add is for those who weren't here last time, the aesthetic changes to the plan are really incorporating a rear private courtyard for each unit. We've got a deeper setback for the garages. We modified our plan schedule based on our meeting with the Shade Tree Commission and the various letters we received. There was a few construction stormwater related items that Scott worked through. With Pinoni, it sounds like those were pretty good. Added a small sidewalk to the northwest parking area. Minor adjustments. We have kind of our next iteration will be work through the zoning and get that dialed in. And then I think we'd love to come back for a recommendation, or I'd say, yeah, administrative logistical things would be what we would look to for this group next, to the extent that. And then I guess the only other thing I'll add is any support that can be given. I think we talked about this last time at the ZHB. Just that we've thoughtfully kind of gone through this. It's been a collaborative effort. All those things would be helpful. So.
But you don't have that second.
Don't have the,
We don't have the application in yet.
yeah, it's done. It's,
Man, I'd like to support we don't have a date yet, right?
Yeah, we did, say we would state it, I think, Prof. Tom Estee was saying that we don't really, well, because of the zoning hearing, board's review of it, if it changed or if it was modified, our recommendation would be removed. So his recommendation also was get the zoning hearing board, have that waived or whatever might happen, which we're supporting the plan the way it's designed. And we believe that it's, I think breaking up those parking into smaller groups, having that screen wall there, pretty consistent with the other parking right adjacent to it and across the alley. So we feel like it should be allowed in that particular location here. If they didn't have the wall and they were doing something different there, maybe if it was access up a walnut, maybe, but those would be problems. I think coming off of the lesser or the less dominant street, we were supporting the development as is.
So we're supporting it via video and recording, but do we need to move on? Do we want to move on that? Is my question.
Well,
Make it, I mean, so that they could have a motion that say, we voted on supporting this. I don't know. It's not, I don't know if that works procedurally or not.
I don't know. I'm gonna say that.
Or we could send a letter, because then we
I
could send
say
a letter.
written letter, if you want to send a written letter in support.
But I think we would have to
Well,
vote on that.
I will make a motion and write a letter in support of the project. That's
I would say this, generally speaking, with zoning hearing boards, letters are not given much weight because they're supposed to have
What
some.
about letters? Yeah.
Letter would be a good idea, but if someone would be willing to come and speak on behalf of the planning commission or that, them to endorse that letter, then that letter takes on a much more significant.
Which if I'm around, I'd be happy to do that. I guess I was more asking, like, is there some way that we keep getting that done?
Let's say,
Absolutely. I'll make sure that as soon as we have this set, I'll make sure that you're all aware of what the time will be. The best chance we would have, if they submitted it now, we have to go to, I don't think we could get in August. Honestly, I don't think we could get in August because we don't have enough time to do the advertising that goes with it. So it would have to be,
what's I mean, just curious, I thought it was between 2 weeks and 30 days.
we have to have it no more than 30 days and no less than 7 days. before. But you have two adverts in a row, 2 weeks in a row, on the same exact day in a newspaper of circulation. Then we will also have to send out letters to everyone within a specific distance, usually 200, I think it's 250 feet of the property. And then we have to post the property 7 days prior to the meeting. So if we go to the Smart Growth in August, it's good, it's possible we could get it at the end of August. I'm just saying it's not right, it still depends on when you get it done. That's why I wanted you to do it. I apologize.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's done. So if John didn't, it sounds like he didn't send it today, so we can send it tomorrow. And then maybe my only request would be that we could work together on, to the extent we can get it done in August, that would be good because we still have the waiting period after that. It's like 45 days to actually get the determination before. So it's not even just the 45 days from now, it's 90 days. If you add up the full length of time that
You'll receive the next, within 20 to 48 hours, you'll receive a letter of determination.
Okay. Well, that helps.
But a letter of decision, you won't get the actual written decision within 45 days. You can move forward with it on the date of your hearing.
So
That'd be great.
if I could, I'm looking at your site plan right now. You currently have 4 parking spaces right here, correct?
Yes.
And you have pervious pavement shown right here, correct? And then this is the 2 parking question, right?
Right.
Right. So if I were working for you, one of the things I would say is you're looking for permission to park over here that the zoning hearing board would have to give it for you. But your plan to meet your parking requirements, you could show 2 more parking spots here right now, right? You could put in those 2 parking spots. To the residents, you could say, well, my overall site plan, because you're going to be doing pervious asphalt, it's
Right.
not counting for the coverage. So you could go ahead and put in 4 parking spots back here, have that as visitor parking, it's not as nasty or green, or you could at least move forward and get approvals. You're not gonna get to that phase until 2 years from now. You could go ahead and build this is a courtyard space, it could be beautiful, or you outline with granite, you got decomposed like granite,
Yeah.
Belgian blocks. I put decomposed granite, it's really nice in there, and then your zoning hearing board is really saying, can you park there or not? Right, because that's a courtyard space, you can put there one way or the other, and then you have these 2 visitor parking, that these are actually what, gets you all your parking spaces. And then a year from now, you come back and say, actually, because zoning hearing board said I can park here, I don't need these anymore, and they keep that as a green. That might be an approach to take if you're looking to push things along.
Got it. I mean, I appreciate that very much. I think from our discussions, it sounds like there's a reasonable case, not reasonable, the hardship does exist because of the uniqueness of having 3 front yards. You couldn't, it would, there's not many opportunities to kind of create a conforming parking space, so I think that's
But it just would save you going through zoning, that's all, or at least being held up by that.
well, if we can, I appreciate that. If we're able to work together to make it such that August is a reasonable date, and we don't have to wait 45 days in order to come back to get a recommendation from the PC. I think that was my only real concern, was that it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
one change of parking.
If I remember, 210 and 214 had to go to the zoning hearing board for something also.
Yes,
They received approval before going to the zoning hearing.
We had a recommendation. We had a recommendation for approval prior to getting the zoning variance.
Correct.
But when we got the recommendation, we weren't going to do. That got determined after that.
Okay, I was just wondering, because I know that you were
Yeah.
involved in that.
Yeah.
It was the first thing I did here.
Yeah, I believe we got the recommendation for approval in May. And then we determined, we were gonna go down to 6 houses.
Yeah,
Or
okay,
about
that's
8.
what it was, yeah, because then we had to go back.
So
to the
then
zoning.
we went to zoning.
All right, I apologize. Now I understand what, I remember what this thing
Yeah.
that kicked into the zoning hearing board for that. I think it was the
Slightly
building
different.
coverage or something, that's what.
It's slightly different timeline.
Yeah.
Similar. but different.
But I guess even short of, because it's just preliminary, we can't, and I think we already talked about this, but I'll ask it again because I'm here. We can't get a recommendation for the plan as is and then continue down that path, knowing we have to get the zoning variance. And then, like, even if we couldn't, it's kind of,
yeah, I mean, that's what Tom asked.
yeah, I figured.
Unless there's 2 parking spots right next to it,
Well,
because then it check boxes.
well, to me is, I mean, it is unique, but I'm looking at
The
at
current
Mechanics Alley. Right, if Mechanics Alley is considered a front street.
Well, it's a grandfather condition, so you have these parking spots there.
Sure, we have this one, but then if you look at Willow Alley, right, and we're looking at those 2, but we have all these in front of these units, right, what's the difference? What's the difference between this car and this car? Right, and then we have South One, I look at South One as the front primary street, as the main. But, and not that this is not a street, but what is the difference between putting a car here and putting a car here? They're both fronting Willow Alley. Right, so if you need a variance for that, are you saying you need variances for every spot on here?
No, because those are considered driveways.
And this is considered a driveway?
Designated parking space.
Is this a designated, can we consider this a designated driveway and parking spot? I mean, I'm just asking.
That's the difference, that's in the determination, of the zone, that's what we use.
Sure.
That technically is a driveway. You can park at a driveway, you can stop you from parking at a driveway. But these are designated parking spots that are, that's a different situation. And unfortunately, and for the MPC, zoning officer has to read it black. Make alterations on our own, that has to go through the zoning hearing board. You can determine whether or not we need to fight the appeal to our determination. But this is one of those situations where you have a unique situation that is you're making the full development or full use of this property, developing it to its fullest and best use. We are requiring them to have the additional parking. And you're very limited, even on that backside of mechanics, which the difference between that and Willow is that becomes secondary access because it is does not have a property that butts the frontage. The other, these five here, but Willow Valley. Well, but the front yard extends from one property line all the way to the other side of the property. So it's very clearly defined in what we're doing. So you can have the stuff here back in mechanics, because those you consider a side yard or rear yard. And you can make the determination of which one you want to use as a side rear yard, doesn't really matter. But those are allowed in places in the application. Could you go to 4? I don't know, I don't know if the spaces are back there, but if you could, then Thomas is correct. But to put those two over on that side and have them as designated parking spots, we do have to get the zoning variance. And I think that the characteristics of this house and the requirements that we have in Saldo create a hardship that are not of their making. That we have to allow them to have.
I will say that somebody, if not a couple of us, will attend that zoning hearing board and support. the
Much
project.
appreciated. Thank you. Yeah, it means a lot. Thank you.
Aaron, would it be the case, just to clarify, they kept the existing parking where it is in mechanics, and essentially just showed 2 more there. Boxes are checked. And then the zoning hearing board would just be going on in the future in parking for your area, correct?
Good, but you're gonna weaken the case by the fact that we're requiring 4 parking spots and you're now.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm just saying from an approach point of view.
Ideally, it would have been best if all 3 were primary accesses,
Hmm,
because then
sure.
that would be kind of like, you give them a golden ticket to really want this chocolate factory.
So what you're saying, we add another unit on the net? Right, no,
Well, I'm not sure you can do that, but
here we go.
But the idea, we went through, we discussed it, and we went over which is the primary road, which one's not, but the definitions. I still think that they are making the best and fullest use of this property. And that there are some requirements in our Saldo and the way that this is done, that restrict them and create a restriction of them being able to do that. So there is something, particularly if there's a recommendation that, you can come in and state that this is a really great development. Work through this, that there's, I think it's a better chance we're going to get this number than 210 and 214 to get. Yeah,
You're not.
when they redid one from 8 to 6. And I had to change the building coverage.
So my follow-up question would be, do we need to look at the code to avoid this in the future?
And maybe that's like a sidebar conversation.
It is, but this seems like an obvious, we could go through the whole borough and identify a number of lots that could be consolidated, and would end up with exactly this situation where they might want to do, hopefully we'd want to do something like this. And so, I'd like to address it for.
Me too,
applicants.
and I think I would just want to another address. There's parking and parking, there's parking when you have Belgian block pavers as a perimeter. When you have decomposed granite or whatever adds like the surface that you're parking on. And then there's asphalt that's not treated nicely, There's basically a courtyard that you can park in or other parking, right? And the last thing you want is other parking in the front yard.
Well, this just still makes me laugh because, I mean,
That's the other part.
yeah. So, I mean,
I agree with you that the parking on the Durant Street. I have no problem parking there.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
It needs to be left. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm not sure. When you look at this building, look at this parking, I mean, all of it. I think there's plenty to point around. This is not a bad condition. And will somebody over there?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I said, other than that, just support on the administrative stuff so we don't get caught just dragging out, because we are excited to get moving. We've got so far good reviews. I think we're, if we don't have a horrific winter this year, we'd like to kind of get jumping on it. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
No, we like the development.
we
The work should end.
Yes. Thank you.
Ooh, can I ask a question? I'm sorry, before you guys go. I don't know if you had seen Thomas Committa's last, because that also came out the day of the working meeting, his comment letter. And I just didn't know, there were a couple things in there.
I do nothing.
Okay, yeah, that's July 6th. We got it, be July 6th. It was right before the meeting, so I wouldn't have expected you to address any of the comments, but a couple things he brought up relative details and things like that, but articulations on the north and south facade. That was one thing that he brought up, and I was looking at some of the comps that we had used originally, like Market Street and others, where the garage face was set back, or the home facade was a little forward. So just take a look at those. I'm curious what your take is on those and how you respond. He was asking about the 6-foot entrance wall. He suggested it be brought down to 4, not the one on Walnut Street, but the one to the courtyard. And he cited some ordinances too. Just take a look. If you haven't looked at them, I'll be interested to see what your responses are.
Yeah. How do we get a copy of that?
I'll email Wendy on this.
Did you receive that?
No, I haven't
So
seen
now
it.
I'll go through tomorrow.
Okay.
I was on vacation that day, so.
Did he say it was just really great otherwise and he loves it?
Yeah,
For the record?
those comments don't usually read that way.
No, it's no comment.
But I don't think there was any, I mean, it was add details with fence and bench, like it's pretty straightforward, but there were a couple ones that would affect your design a little more significantly that
Great.
I don't think are requirements, but suggestions.
Okay. Will do. Okay. Nothing else. Thank you.
Very
Thanks,
good.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor's presentation. I'm gonna go to pedestrian safety.
Okay,
All right, now let me get over to that sheet there.
so
Where would you like to start?
there's the asphalt study, which of course we can just go through quickly, so you get a feel for what that is. So I found this, 2022. It is really focused on sort of mural style asphalt painting, but they have some really fabulous studies up and down the East Coast, up all over the place, but they have a bunch up and down the East Coast, Florida up to maybe Maine, about how painting on the streets make a massive difference. And, you know, all of their artwork is very hand done, which,
44 pages.
yeah, this is, you just scroll through it. There's some really awesome, they did all these amazing community-based artwork projects. Lancaster had a number, I'm sorry, I'm like trying to recall everything is.
The executive summary is great.
Yeah,
And also the entire thing, why they did it, and then the findings too.
it's just a really beautiful thing. I got fixated on some of the statistics about, and I can't read any of them from here. There are statistics in some of these charts about the variation between, so they studied just paintings so if you stop at that image, they studied painting in the center of the street, painting on the crosswalks, painting on where the bump outs would be, and they sort of were making comparisons about traffic patterns and how many accidents were happening based on the different mural placements. So that's what I like a little fixated on. But so I actually went back in and modified my suggestions slightly. But I think,
Intersection.
I know that's crazy.
I mean, that could be Hannah Madden, so.
Right. Right, they did some really beautiful
But
things.
you see that on a difficult, when you get into a situation where you have a difficult intersection, there's still potential ways of dealing with that.
Right, and we had internally discussion about painting in the center of and whether or not that was distracting. And it actually was very helpful for the intersection and the traffic, or the accident.
And I saw you grabbed all of that data in your,
Did I grab? Okay, click over to mine. You might be able to read some of it. Okay, if anybody wants it, it's there. Thank you for reminding me. I'm a little tired. Okay, pedestrian safety.
page 3. There you go.
All right, so this was actually from a couple of different sites, but a lot of it came from that same study. There's 50% decrease in crashes involving pedestrians or cyclists, like based on using art in these. Like it makes a difference. So do something. 3 times increase in driver compliance with signs. Nobody pays any attention to signs, but when you have artwork on the street, then all of a sudden you're looking around and see what's going on. 59% increase in overall numbers of pedestrians. Just pedestrians like being there. There are more pedestrian visits. It increases the drivers yielding to pedestrians. Pedestrians own the sidewalk when the paint is on the, or own the asphalt when the paint is there. It's the cars don't, pedestrians own it. So, I mean, not completely, but more. And people feel safe crossing the street when the paint is there, which is, you know, touchy-feely perception, but having some art down makes a big difference. So, yes, I made some, keep scrolling because I think there's more of this stuff going on. No, maybe I just
My kids have to cross my stream. I'm so excited about this stuff.
Oh, well, okay, hold up. No, forget High Street or Price or, you know, anything owned by PennDOT. I've talked in late with Kelly and there's no, you know, restrictions on what we can do on the borough-owned streets, but there is absolutely no allowance on PennDOT streets because they don't want to maintain it. Just no. And she went to them, and she asked, and no. Absolutely, no. So, okay, sorry.
I heard it name.
No, she said no. I'm like, I would love it on High Street. So I went back and I just threw the crosswalks that I wrote east, west, north, south on there.
I
Because
thought that was a really fun touch.
I did too.
I thought that would work for, so based on the study, if you have the art in the crosswalk areas, it is that much more effective. So whatever, it did that. So, and you know, the flag is all about the directions. And so like, you know, if this is what this town's about, like, there you go. That's a very towny sort of thing. We could do, you know, 1 or 2. So each, I priced out some of the, I priced out some equipment. We need some line painters. We buy the acetone paint or whatever paint was appropriate. And then the stencils cost, I got rough estimates anywhere from $100 to $500 each, and we would need one, depending on how we broke this up. We could
I think we have a line painting machine.
You do. You have line painting machines. I wrote borough owned. You own them. Like, you own that. You just need to. I think that we use water-based paint. Acetone would last longer, but and I'm not sure about this. I feel like Will Williams would have an opinion that I didn't ask him about. There, I put some people in there. I only put one person in there. There were a lot of people already in that intersection because it's a very, very busy intersection.
Which ones you put in?
Oh, which one? Yes,
Have you?
There's your people, Alan. There's your people.
That's so tall.
No, I,
Yeah.
Yes.
And he asked us down a couple weeks ago, like, this is what it was about. And I said, well, I have the person you can be talking to. And so I think you guys might find that you're rowing in the same direction.
yeah. So this is what I came up with. I
You're
didn't.
farther ahead than he is.
Of
but-
course.
But he wants to help.
Good. That is a very good thing. Yeah, I can throw these together relatively quickly. Did I get around to the downtown ones? No, but part of that was pretty discouraged by the PennDOT kickback.
Well,
Yeah.
I
But
mean, even
there
if
are-
we can't do it on Independence Street right at this point, we could still do other stuff.
And we could do, gay and church, and we could do the two ends. I'm pretty
It would be
sure.
kind of cool to do, how many boards are there? 5?
That
Seven? We need in each board to have a specific,
was their own.
that would designate them almost to, you know how Vernon always says the sixth board is the sweetest board. Fifth.
No, he's six. He's six. That's,
But the fifth board.
So you could plan that where each board has something specific that they could put into that intersection. And then have something like that where it's, the symbol and that be kind of like a gay street or
yeah.
somewhere in that area. Church.
It would remind people what ward they're in. because
Yeah.
Most,
Nobody.
a lot of people don't know.
It's just an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Something different on each board.
I do like the borough, because I feel like, folks in that area don't necessarily always feel part of the borough. So I do
I'm like.
I do appreciate that. Yeah, right. They might not even know they're in the borough. They think they're in West Goshen or something. Who knows? I like
They're close.
They are, but
I like it a lot. I just, how do we move this forward? Do we go to Will? Do we move this to
I
smart
think-
growth? How do
It would
we?
be a good
So
idea.
transportation committee, I was saying, John's minds in that, and he definitely wants to help out. I wonder if that they're the teaming up. with
Well, I
that.
wonder if we should loop back around to Will and get him, he's the one, the borough is assigned to be in
The
charge.
biggest issue we'll have would be individuals paying this themselves. Is the big issue that he had, and he liked the idea for this. So what I understand, the big issue, people that were under Boro's control out in this street and safety concerns with it. But, and I don't really have an opinion, right, but it would be a good idea to have, it's not a bad idea to bring this up to see if we can move it towards something in smart growth or, actually, probably.
Yeah, I'm just not sure which, maybe.
Probably sure.
So you also kind of have to like push it forward. This is like other municipalities. Like, how do you know what the rules are? You put in an application.
Yeah.
City pushes back.
I-
I feel like you just.
What do you feel like pushing it, push forward?
I feel like it's ready to push forward, and we
Okay.
just have to pick,
Yeah, because.
pick who we push it
Well,
forward.
let's push it forward. And I know who should be pushing it forward to. Who we handing the
Committee wise, it would be public safety. I would think.
Public safety.
There actually, I think there is something for. Transport, I don't know if transportation meets with any of the subcommittees, but there was something that was bringing out stuff that Sean was, Metric was a member of. Working on different things like this, which intersections needed to be improved.
I wonder if we could co-sponsor with the John group, because John was heavily involved with that study to try to figure out, map out all the intersections.
I think we should try to get as many people involved in it as possible, as much support. I have nothing against John being part of it. It's a great thing, because he brings also, he also brings spin into it.
Yeah.
So you can get a little bit of help with that.
Right.
So wonderful ideas, and now wouldn't be bad to get them all together. We've really been working with this for less. This is something that, can really help in this regard. And I can see if Sean wants to be involved. Because it's always a great thing to have him there to help push it forward.
So
Wait,
I think public safety is gonna be the one who's gotta make the decision on it, but public works is gonna be the one who's gonna have to do it.
Right, yeah, that's fine. It becomes a job, but the public safety is more of a public safety.
Yeah.
I believe they actually meet the same night,
Okay,
on Tuesday. I think public works and public safety, public works is first. then public safety.
Work sessions tomorrow night.
I wonder if public art would actually be better I think like Jim or Brain, I wonder if you're still on that. They might be better for like install, working with public works, you gotta get the police to probably put up some signs with like your parking a little bit. But they might be a group that has a little bit of experience with the install. Jim is obviously very talented.
Eventually, we know that that's sense, because they're supposed to do it.
Alan, who do you think, what do you think? We should make a motion?
I mean, that's.
Well, should we,
Like that.
we go to that next, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Jimmer is still,
Yeah, he's still,
chairman of Public Arts. But I think he'd feel like we're trying to do good stuff, and public traffic, this is not my thing, you know, he would want some blessing. I think public safety, probably. Directed to, I think it's a great idea.
right, oh, yeah, like,
I'm gonna text John Bryant and see if he has time to meet. So if we vote to move this forward to public safety, do we want to be trying to get there tomorrow? Like, what are we?
Well, tomorrow is the work session. Actually,
Oh, no, I want public safety.
well, it's always-
Next.
yeah, I'm gonna, whatever the letter, how it's written, I'm gonna hand it over to Aaron.
Yeah.
Get it to him so it falls in.
Thank you. I'm like,
So,
I'm
but,
feeling overwhelmed.
but that's where I think if we're gonna address the public safety
Mhm.
as well as copy, I think I like public arts and I like the bid, I like general
Well,
fund.
I would-
Transportation.
Smart growth also because I have to give a report on what the commission is doing. And if this is something that you're going to be working towards presenting to public safety, I will be putting that smart growth. So both of those, whichever one takes control of it. So I think I agree with Alan, public safety is the one that kind of pushes for us. But both of them will understand. You're actually under smart growth. It's planning and development, so forth. But in this part, we're working with public safety.
Well, where's Will Williams fit in?
Will Williams is the one who's been running the stuff with, he does all the grants and all the planning and the big stuff like we did with Route 5 and PennDOT to do the whole physical build outs. And he would be kind of the one that would be working with you to determine which places, just core, he would be the choreographer.
Mhm.
Basically, the way to put this, choreographer.
So we're gonna address this to public safety, I'm gonna copy smart growth bid, public arts and Will Williams.
And if you have a sit down with, well, it wouldn't be bid, it'd be
Transportation.
Which John's above. If you're gonna sit down with John, it wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be bad to get them all together before we go to public safety.
Get who all together?
Will, John,
Will, John,
and the
and
people in this place, in this room that push it forward. I can sit in on it, but I'm not really shaking in this regard. I'm just be your facilitator, which is what my job is.
right. Yeah, I think that's,
That's 4 people to get together, so really what we want, the next step is to get 4 groups together, that's all.
yeah,
Following up on the previous meeting. Overall, it was a good meeting. Nobody left completely satisfied, but we got a good start.
All right, so you're saying next step, get those 4 individuals together with yourself and whoever else. can attend.
Yeah.
Okay, how's that get facilitated? You, Sheila?
Either way, if Sheila wants to send me what day she wants, I'll send it out, put together. I will do whatever she tells me to do.
Sheila in charge.
She was in charge.
yeah, good.
We got-
Now, can I ask you right now, like, either Thursday after 3, Friday after 12 this week? Or
Thursday after 3 is not gonna be good because we close at 4 and most people don't want to stay late
right,
because we have to stay for other stuff. But Friday after 12, definitely I can ask for it.
and then I possibly get very tied up after that.
Is there time the next week?
That's what I'm saying now.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless it's an evening thing.
Well, what I'll do is I'll ask for Thursday after 3. For Thursday, can we do for Thursday at 3? It's
Yes,
at 3, or Friday after 12. And what most will likely the contract is push Friday after 12.
yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, you wanna know my calendar? You gotta get on there. I get very loud. I'm sorry.
I've shared my calendar with most everybody.
Okay, so we're gonna do that as the next step. All right, so we'll carry this back through our August again as a follow-up.
All right, so just do the meeting and then bring it back, what we figure out in the
Yeah,
meeting.
and then,
And if we can get those guys all together, we can see, get it up on the August meeting.
Wait, so we don't have to vote on that now?
Don't really have to go on anything on, you can put it together, it's just give a recommendation.
we're just recommending.
When you go to the public works, you have a recommendation meeting, and have someone from your committee come to the public works or public safety committee and say, this is what we're doing, we're trying to move this forward, we'd like your support in this, move forward and explain the statistics, all the stuff you got.
Thank you.
Okay. New business, 328, 332. West Washington. Yep.
I'm back.
Who are you?
If you can put if you have that plan available.
Is this here?
And whatever. You have two flash drives.
Is that it? Scott said.
Yeah. 328, 332, it's the PDF.
Four from Bob here. Give me. Starts with-
Can't
Yeah.
see me, eh?
Can't read the, can't read.
You should give that guy a mouse.
As you know, it starts with SDM. Seymour.
Yeah.
Three parcels on 328, 332. No, 330 and 332. He presenting the sketch plan. I created presenting to right now. Solid lots.
Yes.
Solid lots and construct three new attached houses in the rear yard. Accessing one pad now. This one has the aerial, aerial picture behind. Currently, this is a duplex, first and second stories, is that correct?
Yep.
And then this is twin. There is parking, off-street parking right here. It's basically just driveways to deliver. So we're right now we're proposing to construct a driveway between the buildings, add two spaces in the back where each of these, possibly more than two spaces for this one. But we haven't figured that all out yet. Currently, 330 through 28 have rear parking on pad. So we're getting rid of the rear parking. For 330, we're keeping two spots for 328, and then very similar to what you guys have seen. I've done before, townhouses with stacked two spaces of spot garage and spot driveway. Yeah, we were able to stay within the zoning, but I mean, we haven't figured out everything about course asphalt problem for all the rear driveways back here, possibly some forest walkways, state limits for the lot. There's a lot of room for some underground, two pretty large underground systems. This is just an initial proposal, but I'm thinking one or two underground systems potentially, depending on the testing. Maybe get some existing houses to them as well. This is the sketch. I'm going to represent you guys, get your feedback on. Thinking you may want to digest it.
Well, I think,
Yeah, it's right next to this.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah, there's a existing parking in between the houses. That's where we take your driveway back to the yards and have all your work.
And this guy runs perpendicular to the property.
Yeah, that's on private.
That's the driveway. That's for the apartments.
Right, that's what I'm saying, that's next door.
Yeah, so,
That's this here. Now, I mean, I'm good with the idea, but I guess the execution, I think the grouping of housing and adding the housing, rather than surrounding like a couple cars that matter, just trying to figure out maybe a configuration, because I did kind of take a sneak peek of this, and trying to figure out how we can, and actually, I really like these two pairs of buildings here. I don't know where,
yes, so they talk about these ones.
yeah,
Yeah, so they come in the driveway off Washington.
right. But these guys are here, and I was looking at whether we did something similar. I don't know where our 3D is. But but something that keeps kind of in the same.
It'd also be nice to see kind of, what you're inspired by. Do you live here in Burke?
I do, yeah.
Where do you?
I live on Walnut Street.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see too, like, the types of homes that you're inspired by in the borough. And these are, what, 18 or 20 foot wide?
The existing twins.
Oh, it's just like.
Ones are 19.
19, yeah, so it'd be interesting to see. We have, so many great townhouses that are that scale, anywhere between 18 and 20. And even on probably Patton Alley, it's probably have existing ones here. So it'd be great to see that kind of like inspiration.
Yeah, like a
Images
render.
that- yeah, what are you trying to create here?
For sure.
There's some potential there.
Yeah, because that's what I was looking at. There's other buildings that say they could have carriage homes or a little bit of if you're creating a place or a space there in amongst these buildings, as opposed to just surrounding, taking that long drive, just talking a couple cars in there, and that's out your front door. I'm not sure that's as desirable as if looking at configurations. Though when I did look at it, that's what I was trying to figure out why we don't have three-dimensional here. Is these guys kind of do a similar approach? Not good, not just saying, it's just what's there. These guys kind of ran perpendicular to it. So I was trying to understand what else was going on in the block.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And this is coming from my zoning mind. The way I look at these right now, these two here, actually all three of these in the front are existing legal non-conforming. Are you required to have 2 parking spaces for all of these? In new development, it's only new development. This back section. Would you be able to actually one space, reduce that massive amount of cement, pervious material down and recreate more of the front yard for those ones in the back?
Right. I also think, depending on the detailing, like inner courtyards that are hardscape or something. And
I'm sorry, Dan.
inner courtyards that are hardscape could be stunning, right? And you still have so much of the lot that is open to trees and whatever else. So I think with the right inspiration images,
Right.
that, pervious, paved, asphalt, that's gonna be not very nice, obviously. But, you could detail it differently with granite curves and stuff like that. You could, essentially, it's not parking in there, you just have this inner courtyard space that gets parked on in the evenings. So I think with the right inspiration images, and materials and detailing, you can park in a beautiful courtyard.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if you have to have,
No, it's a great point. Yeah, right.
because they're already existing, they're not, and nothing really needs to change for them.
Steve, just to be clear, you have this house.
That's a duplex, so it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. So downstairs is 2-bedroom, 1 bath, upstairs is 2-bedroom.
When was that built?
I don't know off the top of my head. It's
That beautiful serpentine.
it's an interesting building for sure. I just recently purchased that 2 months ago. And then I've owned 330 West Washington for a decade. And 328 Washington probably for like 8 years, 9 years, something like that. So they're all rentals, but I would be planning on selling the townhouses in the back. And if we, I'm definitely open to doing a courtyard if that makes more sense.
Well, I think it's the difference of detail, is that asphalt impervious or is it a beautifully detailed place that doesn't just match your parking spots, but it's a place where you can park.
Right. Makes sense. And James, I'm still not 100% clear on what you were kind of envisioning with the
Well, I was
consistency
just-
with those back.
Yeah, but when I was looking at it, I was seeing there was 2 pairs. And I was thinking, boy, it'd be nice to have 2 pairs. It would be 4 units for the.
I would love an actual.
Right, so I didn't think you were gonna impose it, but my point was is to find something in scale in keeping with that kind of rhythm and kind of help tie that into the.
I think with the 4th unit, we were getting too far into the impervious coverage, right?
And then that's why I was
Yeah.
reducing that's why I was saying, boy, rather than having drive and parking, can we get this?
It's also building coverage because we haven't, we were.
That's actually what it
Like,
is.
have increase and building, so I did put together those 3 months ago.
Mhm.
So you did that back up, but, I do think that's. No, it's not really compared to our board that we have these 2 different. Maximums, why if we have, impervious maximum all, we also have building coverage maximum.
Jim, were you almost thinking, so the red garage is what you're talking,
Yes, see
Like-
this guy? See
like-
this guy?
almost their garages.
Right.
So were you thinking like maybe houses oriented like that and everybody drives in off Washington and parks underneath from that way?
Well, I was just saying, from a rhythm and a massing standpoint, forget what.
It just keeps Pat and Alley
Just-
consistent.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, I was just saying, there's something that starts here that's actually kind of nice. And when I'm saying that, it's irregardless of the condition or what the use of it is, it's relative to, is that, from a pedestrian standpoint, a living standpoint, what you're in there, how's that, can we work with that? Rather than having a standalone looking inward type of development, even though you might create a corridor that looks and lives inward. How does that relate to the surrounding? This guy, everybody's kind of facing into this backyard, so you have that side to it. And not good or bad, but if you did one on this side and face the opposite way, you would start creating something. So it's, when I look at these, I start thinking, what happens if they continue to cross? So I was just looking at the opportunity to max out the development potential of the property. And I didn't necessarily want to do it with the parking lot. I was just trying to figure out how to tuck a couple spots in there and I see what they did, because both of these have long drives just to park here. Meanwhile, I look at I feel like I came in from the wrong side of the property. Got a lot more creep. But so I'm not saying I'm solve it or not solve it. I'm just saying is that you look at it. And when I looked at your drawing, Scott, I was like, it's a shame we didn't just step back a little bit and include some other,
Scroll down. It's just without their.
Let's go. Yes. But some of these side pieces, when you see those things, help understand where you are. So this has got good potential for this space. This I don't have a problem with. I'd almost rather see another building there.
Yeah.
But,
We would run into impervious.
It's
issues,
built,
so
it's
then,
more the building, this is pretty
Building.
maxed on building coverage,
Okay.
because we have the existing houses.
And size wise, if you were to split, go forward.
So you mean split, the parcel?
Well, right now you have 3 townhomes.
Oh.
Because you maxed out a block, it's the amount of building I can have.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
But
right,
that can divvy up into 4 smaller ones, or
sure,
1 larger one, or 3 this size.
it could, yes.
Right? And then each of those drives require parking. And there's different building types that we've said, hey, you looked at flats, you looked at quads, you looked at triplexes, have you looked at? So any of those things, right now you have either a duplex or on one of those buildings, right?
Yeah.
And that's side by side, can you say that? vertical, like stacked.
They're on top of each other.
So the duplex is stacked and then one adjacent to it is,
It's a set of twins.
okay, it's, sorry. So you have,
Full serpentine.
Yeah.
So that, like that front.
yeah, I saw that little overhang, that entry piece there. So,
One of the things I really appreciate, you're doing the same, thing that, the last applicants are doing is prioritizing, the door onto the front of the street, that alley. Obviously, you can try to maximize that, try to squeeze in 2 parking spaces under, but you completely lose the street frontage. And I think the experience that you're gonna be creating right there, obviously you've got that front door on that now, but you also have all this landscaping potential. You could make an argument, want to pull those buildings close to Patton Alley. Patton Alley is already, this stuff. I think that would also be lovely, but I appreciate the staffed driveway parking situation because it will force that front door back that 18 to 20 feet. And you will get that filtered experience with the landscaping there.
yeah, it was just my initial was, is parking on both sides of this house. If we mirrored the house and put this as the front and the parking in the rear, can we get all the parking in the back? And then the front of the alley? As an example, I'm just trying to consolidate your pervious surfaces and your parking and your circuit and keep those cars one side or the other. Because right now I feel like it's out back, it's out front. I'm just trying to figure out how you might carve a space that's where you're hanging out outside as a little community of this grouping of homes. So, and I wasn't, I know this side runs vertical, and that's why I was looking at maybe you do something with this direction. I don't know. What I liked was what was going on adjacent to the alley. I was just saying. So I was looking at, can you do that? Does it make sense to open up some green in there? Park around it further? I don't know.
One of the things I think, Matt, you talked about, talking about parking in the front yard, that, Christopher Alexander talks about the fact that when you get over like 3 cars or 2 cars, you get under that, and now you have this quarter experience. So I think that would be something we want to talk about with the front yard, but I also think there's some truth to that too. Like if you were sketching out this thing, you want to keep that in mind. You put all the cars in one spot, all of a sudden you do have this parking lot, and there is the case it's kind of broken up now. I wonder if in the end, it, utilize the Patton Alley and the driveways serving 4 and the Patton Alley serving the others. But in some ways, it is, that's parking lot-ish, keeping them separated.
Sure. I mean, I think trying to drive the quality of these up as much as possible to get as much value out of them. So if somebody wants to live with that. Yeah, but I don't disagree with you with that. I think, and that's what I was saying. Even if there was green here and you moved it, at least it would break that up. I'm not at all encouraging a large sea of parked cars in the back. But yeah, this standalone by itself, perfectly fine. This standalone there, I was surprised until I saw that drawing, looked around at that street and saw that there was actually a precedent there. There was actually a couple properties already set up like this. That was, like I said, I didn't realize they were kind of pulling through here. That's a lot of sidewalk. I don't know how wide that is, but it's pretty wide.
So what's your next step?
We wanted to get feedback first, and I'm pretty new to all this, so my thought process is, we didn't really want to have to get any zoning relief, which
Yeah.
we would need to with building coverage.
Yeah, I think you guys,
No,
I think you guys have,
So
yeah.
I love your idea. I don't know how to, if you already have a relatively small townhouse, I don't know about making them smaller
Mhm.
to get an extra 4th one to make
Yeah.
it consistent.
Well-
But I do understand, driving down that alley would look more consistent if there was
Sure.
4. And trust me, I'd rather have 4.
Well, I mean,
As
it's a
developer,
funny thing
But
because
I just also don't want to have to jump through a bunch of hoops with zoning and then find out we
Sure.
can't get
Totally
it.
agree. Yeah, I'm not, I would say by right is where you want to aim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. I also think there's an opportunity to make a smaller, more attainable home. So split that development over more homes. And then, so in the twenties and the thirties, when a lot of this borough was built, some of those sizes, some of them are much smaller. In the forties, the average house was like 1,200, 1,400 square feet. Now they're about 3,500.
Oh, it was smaller than that. Oh, you mean in town?
Yeah,
Nationally, it was
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
yeah, and nationally it's smaller. But I mean, I'm just saying this is relative to what people's expectations are. Certainly there's a point if you're gonna develop, people decide we're gonna decorate a lot, they're gonna put as much money as possible. But the reality of it is, housing prices and the cost of those houses, to try to find developers that will provide more attainable housing at a level that's maybe a percentage down. So we have a development that happened here in the boroughs on. Is that Walnut? What's or Matlack? What's the Matlack, South Matlack there? Those homes are still for sale, all right?
740.
Yeah. And those things, and I'm just saying is there was 4 homes there. They would have been better off with more at smaller and a price point that was more comfortable for people to invest into that location. And I'm just recommending that if you're going to put that density in that way and offer something, you have the opportunity for younger people trying to get into all older people's trying to downsize. So it's just that you can make quite a livable house on 2 or 3 stories high.
Do you
in that
see a
small-
way to? Right now I don't, but I think we will take this all back and brainstorm.
Yeah,
And maybe,
Yeah.
and maybe,
The next working session to.
maybe with a couple options or something. Like if we come up with a couple options, be like, well, we thought about maybe doing
That's
something
what
like this or
the
this.
group did, And then you guys kind of beat them up a little, not beat, that sounds weird, but you picked apart some of the things that were really great, some of the things that might not be as great. And then so they were able to get through a lot quicker and a lot easier.
Yeah, and I'd seen this coming, we hadn't met, but, and I'd love to take a stab at just laying a couple things out on here too, that we can talk about the next working session.
Sure, any feedback you have.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe the next working session, we can see if we can get creative. With,
Right now, the biggest issue is building coverage and the impervious.
Right,
coverage, 'cause they're
and-
both like,
they're right there. Yeah.
they're right.
Yeah, at this point,
And I agree with your approach, go buy right as much.
Yeah.
And there are pervious, pavements and approaches there. Like pressing bound.
yeah, the limiting factor doing this one lot is the 35% building coverage.
Well, let me
Which,
ask
I mean, if that's, I mean, great, but even in the next working session, we can still just talk about orientation and
Yeah,
different ways.
that's exactly what,
City,
that's what's bouncing around my head.
3 units, whatever, I think it gives us the opportunity to all come in with a little bit of feedback.
And when
Yeah.
you're looking at this, so you're looking at consolidating the properties.
Yes. Yeah, that's what this plan is doing
That's what. has
for
to
this
happen.
company. Yeah,
And so that drops to
Sure.
35, right?
yeah. But
Now-
when you go with individual lots, even though it's a higher percentage you're allowed for the building, it still doesn't allow for much of a footprint for each lot.
What's the square footage? total, Scott,
Of
for
the
both
lot?
lots?
I believe it's 14 or 15,840.
15,840.
This is in the NC two, correct?
Yes.
So at that point, anything over 5,000 square feet, I think is the lowest level.
That's right.
First, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
First, that's actually the line.
Be creative. We'll come back.
So, Thomas, you're gonna take a stab at a couple things?
Well, I'm sure. I'll-
Got your thoughts?
Yeah.
Matt's definitely wants it. So.
That's not my expertise. I like to look at Thomas's and your stuff. Yeah.
But it's great.
Apparently,
to
it's all
meet
good.
you. You know, you live here and work.
Yeah.
That's huge. We, so.
Yeah, I used to live right on the corner, like right on New Street.
You've owned these properties for a long time. You're owned them.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, and I do appreciate you coming in,
Yeah.
especially so early in the process. I think it helps get a lot of loose items in on the table and discussed prior to having manhole cover details. So I think the idea of big picture just move around big pieces gets us into a straight line as quick as possible. So, and I do appreciate you participating in that kind of process.
Appreciate you guys taking the time. Taking a look at it.
A lot of potential, so I'm excited to see where this goes. Okay, Alan, any comment?
I think, the suggestion of finding some things of an inspiration, a really good direction to take, because it's kind of a spot could be fabulous, could be really awful too. And I think,
He's looking at the deer melt from the back.
I'm less enamored of the neighbors setup than Jim is, but he's the architect. You know, he understands it better. I just think it could be wonderful, but a lot of, you gotta tell us first of all, you think it's wonderful. Maybe that could help, you know, having once lived in a house where I shared a driveway, never do it again, never. It's just, this was just two houses.
Yeah.
You know, this is much bigger, but it's definitely a challenge, definitely a negative here.
For sure.
That's if you're gonna be sharing. It's really helpful. But, you know, I think it has massive potential. Together, it's almost, good.
I don't know much to add. I think, you know, it's like great things about it, it has much potential. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of trying to get them forward and pushing, I know, but trying to push up the lots of that one here closer to the street. Kind of facing up the space behind it, that'd be cool. But yeah. Well, keep playing around.
Could walk to the beer.
That
Can walk to the
I know,
beer.
yeah.
No, I'm
Go
good.
walk.
Anything that's gonna create more attainable housing in the borough is something that, you know, is driving force for me. So, yeah, you know, would 4 be possible? Would the configuration, you know, change? Certainly, that's the expertise of these guys.
Yeah.
Thanks. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Sounds good.
Local developers doing small developments like this. That's what made the borough what it is today. That's what brought the character we had. So it's just exciting to see local small developers.
I'm excited to see what you come up with. I think that area could use some love, and I'm glad that you're there, because that is
It's a perfect lot to do.
it's
really.
beautiful. Thank you for being there. And please get this done.
All right.
Get something good done. And I like the idea of attainable. Attainable is very neighborhood appropriate, attainable.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all right. I don't have much to add. Leverage.
Yes.
Keep leveraging these guys expert as far as the architecture and the layout goes, because they've helped come up with good designs on these smaller infill lots. And I appreciate you guys coming in. All right. It's a great start to the process. Thank you.
I did want to make one comment. Sure. Far away. And I'm going to bring this, so I looked up, this is what we had met previously before they came here. This week or last week, I can't remember.
Last week.
But one concern I have was parking. And what I looked at is you have three buildings on this property, the Seven Twins and the up and down duplex. You don't have to worry about the parking for those. Because that's not part of the development that you're doing. You only have to deal with the parking in the back, which comes into the stackable parking you're talking or something else, which opens up a little bit towards the centerpiece of this community, this little cul-de-sac, this little neighborhood within a community. to the neighborhood. So it allows you to do a lot of interesting things there that may also be able to restrict the amount of porous or pervious or impervious material used for parking, and so it'll open up a little bit more green space. I personally believe that the purpose for the building coverage more than the impervious is to create more green space, not necessarily more space to let water down into, but just to keep a significant amount of open air area. And we can have that discussion another time, but it's always a great thing that if you can keep kind of that livable space where people can actually do something. Because that would be more towards, however you want to get to the back of the front of their house, because that's more private, like even if it's the front, where they would be walking in the front door, it still would be kind of something where they can have a sit out, a little cookout or something. It just makes it, just look at the actual parking that's required. From the zoning, I can't see anything that really requires you to add in more parking for those things that are, the buildings that are in the front. You're keeping the two on the rear, which, if you use the pervious material in there, that would also reduce some of the impervious coverage you have. So that you can definitely reduce a lot of the impervious coverage. I don't know what you can do about the building coverage. That's the biggest, as you said before, that's your biggest constraint on this property. Great to see that before. I would love to see 4-2, because what Jim was saying, when I was looking at those garages, the kind you have in the front, you have a twin, then you have an up and down twin. You have duplex here, two different types of duplexes. It would be kind of cool on the back if they were mounted, like the garage was just two tenants, with a little bit of separation between them. It just would add a kind of keeping that double. It's almost like everything in this neighborhood is doubled. Two garages attached, two townhouses attached, duplex in front, twin in front. They're all multiples of two, everything in this. And it kind of adds to the geometry. Look out the way that this is gonna look. I don't know if there's a way to get that fourth in there, if you want to, good. But from a zoning point, the only thing that I told them that I was concerned with was that they need to be very fine on that they have exact numbers for their building coverage and their impervious coverage. That's the only two things that are real close to less than 100% on those two things. But once again, if you don't need to have those two sets of parking in the middle, that can open up a lot of space for you and then reduce a lot of your impervious.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys. Scott, good.
Yeah, thanks.
He's the only architect in the.
Engineer.
Sorry.
Insult you.
Oh,
I do.
Jim and I are playing around with our colored pencil.
There we go. Have a great night. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Very nice. I agree with you, Thomas. It's nice to see a local, small developer look at this.
There's different, that capital right there.
It's another one on Washington.
Yes.
Did you see the two major stormwater locations they had? They had huge stormwater planted in the center and along one side, which may allow for them to just take half or even a quarter of those buildings in front, bring them to that, so it's lower than that. So, you know, everybody says that one manhole in Washington pops up every time it rains. Well, these will help to.
Well, that is a rough area. I mean, relative to the element that comes out, it would be nice to be able to clean up and get it.
Agreed.
Something that kind of cleans that. When you go back in behind that area, could use that. Little pickup there. Yeah. So I like.
Well, it's Axel Square, it's this one, it's the places on Darlington that have all been bought. It's slowly but surely.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the bake shop ordinance. This one we're gonna, if everybody had a chance to review it, just a real quick overview again. We're adding in the ordinance a tobacco store smoke shop as a use permitted by conditional use in the town center and the commercial service districts. So it's really just putting little teeth into the fact that a vape shop showed up. A lot of residents came out kind of surprised by its presence in their neighborhood. So the ordinance was developed in and around that, which basically the condition really, the strongest one is it's got to be a 500-foot distance from another vape shop. As well as for a tobacco store, smoke shop shall be located minimum 500 feet from another lot where there is a building or structure or a lot that is used as a school, religious use, public recreation facility, daycare center, school bus stop, or library as measured from the property line. And the 500 feet between the tobacco store, so that kind of puts those parameters. I think
Kristen prepared it. Just to give you a little bit of background on this, this became evident on the zoning determination I made that was on Butler. That unfortunately, the way we have it right now, anything that deals with the sale of any material, including tobacco or tobacco accessory products, is considered a retail service or retail shop. And because of that, it can go into, it cannot go in the NC2, NC1, or there's some other ones. What happened is there was a retail service, a retail shop that was legally non-conforming. And because of it, we had maintaining and continuing its legal non-conformity, this was allowed to go in that place, which was very unpopular. It is only 200 or so feet away from St. Agnes. A bus stop is right out in front of it. There were a lot of things against it. When we did our review of it, the state does not have any official statement on how far away that we from anything. It gives the borough through their land use permits or permissions to make determinations on this. And that's basically where this came from. They're going to limit it to a specific area and keep it out of the NC2, NC1, and NC3 districts, I believe. And then there's just, yeah, just going to allow for those two, I think, what the CS and the TC.
Just the CS and the TC.
I mean, it'll have to follow a regular retail, right?
What? This would
Yes.
no longer be a part of the regular retail. This would have its own designation, its own use.
It would be defined as tobacco store / smoke.
I'm just thinking like which zoning districts would be allowed.
It would only be allowed in the TC and CS.
And the idea is to keep it away from
As a conditional
most of your residential properties. There were some other issues that came along with this property. There's the example with lighting and some other issues that we started to deal with signage. Which we're still having problems with other properties in C2 and C1. But that's the basic idea behind this and why this was brought up to be
Sure.
limited.
My only comment, I mean, I wish Tom Hesty was here, but it was relative to under the definition of retail store or shop. It kind of ran through in big picture ways here, like antiques, books, beverages, confections, dry goods. Once it hits the last 4 sentences of that paragraph, it just goes, drills down and gets into a retail store or shop which maintains 20% or more of its total display area, the sale of tobacco products, Delta 8, 9, 10, or THC product brand. It really, and ingestibles, it really gets into the weeds. When in the next, literally, and when it gets into the next definition, which is for tobacco store or smoke shop, I would think that's where we got that should.
Well, they're reducing it down because they're considering places like 7-Eleven, Wawa, Luke Oil.
Sure.
They only have 20% for tobacco products like smoking and those little things.
No, I get that part. I'm just,
That still would be considered retail service shop. The other one would be anything above that now becomes specifically a tobacco shop, smoke shop. Because this one, they put in, they said it's going to be a convenience store. They don't sell anything but bombs,
right.
products.
Well, they went into it, ingestible CBO products and creative. So I get that. I'm just saying is if Tom was here, I'd ask him why it was here instead of down. I would rather,
Well, it's in both
it's
places.
in both places.
It's in both places, it's just the volume of it, so, you know, because technically places like 7-Eleven.
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm the first of them. I'm good with that. So I was good how it was written, so I was gonna make a motion. Does anybody have any comments on this?
Well, I did. I was just curious, and maybe nobody will have the answer, so, because we didn't write it, but they don't include a square footage. It's just a 20%. And I've seen in other, because I looked at some of the other codes, Lansdowne, a couple others that have this on the books already or proposed, and they also included like square footage for different size shops to accommodate other size shops for like, and then also mixed use. They had a smaller percentage. They had both a square footage and a smaller percentage for mixed use, like larger grocery stores or convenience stores that are actually might have a smaller percentage but a larger footprint. So I was just wondering what was considered. Same with the distance. It was 500. I've seen 1,000. Was there a reason why it wasn't 1,000? Why wouldn't we just make it further? Maybe there's a real reason. I don't know. But I've seen 1,000 feet. So those were my three kind of basic comments. Maybe just for our solicitor. I don't know. I mean, anything is better than nothing. So I don't want to hold them, but I do.
The main
Wasn't
reason
sure if
for
it was
footage,
stretching.
main reason for footage was because at the beginning, there was a big article, there was quite a bit of work put in. First thing when it's like this, there has to be some issue, specific issue that you're trying to deal with.
Mhm.
And then what the severity of that issue is. If you had a borough that was like 3.8 square miles and you had 15, 16, and you're putting 1,000 square foot, and that's basically where we discuss back and forth. Don't have that many here, and the protection is just to stick them away from. You know, in the TC area, you still have a problem. There's still parts of the TC area, the TC district, that can be, which can be very close to St. Agnes.
Yeah.
Daycare centers and so forth like that, but it was basically to make it much more difficult, much more defined.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and 1,000 might be unreasonable given the size of the TC center, the TC district relative to the rest of the borough. I will admit I didn't go around and look for spots I could put in a smoke shop.
That's
But but that, yeah, and so, and maybe that's good enough.
Well, I was looking at the building that was brought up at the borough council was this location.
Oh, yeah.
It's 400 feet from St. Agnes. That's what I was just wondering if it was more than 500 or less than 500. So this would not be allowed based on this. I was just trying to find out what happened here.
It's 400.
Look at that.
The other ones that are on High Street, you know, they're all close to churches, so.
Well, I think as a conditional use, it at least then gives an opportunity for the borough to have, you know, a discussion.
Yeah, no, there must be one that would be still valid, but I don't know where it is.
So there is one, I can't think of the name of it, but it's probably having different issues with, also selling of cartridges of nitrous oxide or nitrous oxide, which is another whole issue. But that's legally non-conforming. It's probably only about 50, 60 feet away from the church.
Right.
Yeah, but there's a bus stop within there, but unfortunately it's technically within, and it's in the NC2 district also. So the idea was to try to get it away from where we have children most. Right. And well, there's no place that is for your children in the borough. It should be.
Such a free air.
But the industrial would be the hardest place, but there's only two lots on that.
Well, there were also restrictions on individuals under 18 years of age had to be accompanied by an adult with the So who was responsible? Was this Lisa?
Lisa, I believe, was the one who brought that forward. She also brought one on Crater, which hasn't done.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
I have a couple comments.
Sure.
So, I have been out, I asked at some point, because I saw it on, an agenda item or something, and I asked about it, and Aaron, you said, oh, you're bringing it up again, like, this is the one day maybe I haven't had to talk about this yet, right? So I guess there's been conversation about this. I think I haven't heard about it just because it's just been out of the loop since whenever that was, 6 months ago, we talked about it. So, I had a couple different thoughts. First, there's a whole, like going down like a corner store, right? It's on the corner. So Westchester, like every other town, had a culture of corner stores where we talk about food deserts, and we have this within the borough that everything has to be accessed by car. And so appreciate the grocery that Bob was trying to do. And then so just in a couple of seconds I had here, I just started looking at different places. They're always up corners, but if you go to the corner of Wayne and Gay, right, there's another little Mexican restaurant, right corner, right? So I just want to just highlight that. If you go to Neilton, Matlack, right, and it's usually corners that are in neighborhoods that are outside of the town center, right? The town center used to have 3 groceries, I think. Blanking on the gentleman's name, this gentleman at St. Agnes used to own a grocery store on.
Right, Jim. Yeah.
Okay, well, and I'm thinking of a different guy who had, there were probably multiple. Okay, and
What we want.
aside, okay, if you go to Linden and Walnut, there's another one, right? So I guess I just wanted to first point out that we did have a culture of this. Those non-conformities are in some cases still there, probably, I would guess that most of them have been bulldozed. But we still have these fragments. And part of the reason we do have these food deserts is because we lost that culture, okay? And then the other comment, I read through the ordinance earlier today for the first time. And a couple things jumped out at me. It does strike me as odd. I don't smoke. I don't like that this is here. I'm outside of it, but at the same time, I go to St. Agnes. We have a bar that's under 300 feet from St. Agnes. And that's a bar, right? It's selling right at the corner. It's a bar, and then there's opposite up top. One of the stipulations in this ordinance is that you can't have residential in the same building of the same lot, correct?
Yes.
So then I think of Gay Street. There is a vape shop on Gay Street, right?
Yes.
Yes,
So would this make that, I mean, would it be grandfathered in?
it's legally, it would be legal non-conforming.
Okay, so, but we would be creating a non-conformity with this ordinance.
Anytime changes.
And then I think of like any of the pubs on Gay Street, Ryan's or Kildare's, they have residential up top. Any place that serves alcohol down there has that. So, I don't know, it strikes me as maybe odd, and I wonder, what's the focus on this one? Is this in response to neighborhood backlash of this one location? So we're making a non-conformity. We're definitely treating it drastically differently than alcohol. And are we furthering kind of the war against the neighborhood corner store with this move? Is that language part of that? So I definitely feel. I don't know. I'll probably just refrain from voting. I think kind of out of the conversation. But it doesn't let me.
Last one I can comment. I don't believe that we are furthering more against the average corner store.
Which is already non-conforming legal.
It's already non-conforming legal, but it's still in other districts in the NC district. If it has even just the retail service in its past, that's still a continuation of it. And so this situation, let's see this property in Washington Street. They can still put in a corner convenience store, grocery store.
And as long as they're 20% or less.
20% or less, and they're not going to be selling, I don't know the stuff because I don't do this stuff, but any of the, the THC products or any of the other types of products that are really restricted down to that, then that has the potential of being able to still move forward in that regard. This one was put forward as a retail service. Originally supposed to be a convenience store, then they just said, no, it's gonna be a smoke shop. Which technically still fit the ordinance. The backlash was on proximity schools and at-risk individuals. There has been a huge reduction. There was a big, huge, negative campaign against Joe Campbell and other things with cigarettes because they were kind of advertising towards children. So it's kind of a continuation on that where trying to remove these, let's get them as far away from where we concentrate on children than we normally would have. And that was kind of the way they're looking at this. And they didn't do anything with alcohol because it's kind of hard to make some of those restrictions. And I know that.
Well,
This
we
is-
have like kids on East Street all the time too. We close it down and it's like this happy kid festival and the parents are still there. It's like,
Yes, and there's people who live above them.
it feels a little bit like prohibition right now.
Most of the people that live above Kildare, there's no place like that. There's not a lot of children. Those are most young adults and so forth. And I understand, we don't prohibit it, is what you're saying. Prohibiting it is for just smoking, for smoke shops. I'm not sure why that is. To answer that, I could just answer to the fact that I do not believe that this would put any more restriction on a corner store that might be a little Mexican grocery store. Or to put in a special, an Italian grocery store, just have that little group that has a little deli in with the convenience store. I know everybody hates the word bodega, but kind of that's a good description. I like it. But those are still allowed in that district, so if someone.
Well, they're not performing, right? Like you could change it.
Yeah, but if one wanted to go back in at 300 Washington, but they had less than 20%, we can say yes, but you can't have more than this.
Sure.
So only 20% of your straw. And I think that's only like 900 square feet, so 20% of 900 square feet, the math is not a huge amount of space that can be open for this type of stuff. But it would allow for something that would sell groceries, would allow for the quick convenient items, milk, different things like that.
Well, to me, that seems like a win, right? If we're saying, hey, you can't sell more than 20% of these tobacco products, and we have these non-conforming corner stores that shouldn't be non-conforming in these neighborhoods, you're saying, hey, as long as the conversation are not at war with that non-conforming use, and they put in a little grocery store, I would at least argue that there's a good there. I wonder if it would be worth, and maybe you're saying, yeah, this legislation's already too far. Would it be worth striking B3 tobacco store shall not be permitted on a lot within a building that is included with residential dwelling or dwellings, simply because we do have Gay Street that does have retail, that does have a vape shop, that does have residential dwelling. We're creating a non-conforming, and it seems overreaching, especially when the arguments are like, hey, proximity to kids, hey, proximity to St. Agnes. I go to St. Agnes with my kids, we walk to St. Agnes, and we pass bars with residential above, and it's not a big deal.
I think it's a good point. I can't say that that's not.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, I think there are good points. I also think, we touched on a couple of things that I'm thinking right now, I'd like to push this to next month's work session and then see if we can't get Lisa, or the spots, one of these in here. I think there's a couple real, good points. I think, and as a side, if corner stores aren't legal, we should make them.
Yes.
All right.
Yay.
Just
Can I just really quick on that? I don't know this as a fact, but I do know that there's a solid, very functional grocery store on Chestnut Street, right around the corner from this. So when it went out of business or whatever happened, and then it reopened, there was a logical reason for the person starting the business to not have a grocery store on the same block as the other grocery store. So like, it's logical. that building is kind of amazing because there's parking there. Like there's nowhere that has parking. It could be an awesome, I don't know what, and they're gonna redo they're gonna add a bunch of houses right next to what the auto place. I'm blanking on names. So like that, what?
Access to.
Yeah, so there's like, that neighborhood's gonna change a bunch. But
Yeah, and I think to be fair, I don't think it was the tobacco or the cigarettes that was the issue. So,
I mean,
That was an issue.
well, sure, but I mean, I'm just gonna say, when I read down this list, I don't even know where half these things are. THC products, kratom, I don't know.
Kratom is a plant that comes from Indonesia that it has no health benefits. It causes
it
significant
makes you more cool.
What is,
It makes you more cool.
does make you
That's about it. That's perceived.
ingestible CBD products or materials, vaping products that should be considered tobacco storage. So that's what's considered there. So it's not like it's a cigar shop or anything. It's not like it's a human in there. So we know, you know what's in there and you know what they're backing on. It's the legalization, club pieces. So, but to me, as I'm willing to push this off and have Lisa, if we can,
The only question I have is whether or not there is a public hearing in regards to this. And I'll verify that for you.
okay, so you're saying we have to make a motion?
Not 100% sure. I can't remember if this actually has a public hearing for this already.
Okay.
Wednesday? So it might be this month, it might be 15th. He's going to get the flyer.
Is that what he's doing?
Yeah.
He probably knows more about all the other
He
meetings than the rest of us.
Doesn't miss me. I would love to have a report like it. Never misses. I believe that it's already scheduled for a public hearing for it.
So, well, let's add corner stores to our list. Right?
Yes.
And then, I think that's, I'm coming out of that one. Matt, you
No,
brought,
it's not set.
Darryl, is that set?
No, it's data center.
Okay,
The dates. Okay.
great. Then.
Can we, all right, I'm gonna move this to the work session and have one of the authors and maybe an attorney here. Great. So,
He could not make it today, that's why he came last.
oh, sure.
I made sure he was here because I was.
Okay, that's it. That leaves one last thing that we surpassed, Thomas, which was your 339 West Gay Street, that sketch level that we had for that. He was here last week to discuss some plan options there, and we had some discussions. I thought it was fair that maybe he come back in and have a discussion again. I don't know if you want to reach back out to him and see if he wants to attend.
Well, I think we could have our own discussion. I think, I mean, it's already 9 o'clock, so maybe we punt it to the next work session. But I think that there's food there for conversation when we're thinking about attainability, when we're talking about senior housing and also the preservation ordinance. So I really saw it as an opportunity to kind of frame a conversation. And I guess he presented, I guess, last week. But, and if we punt it to the next work session,
Yeah, you can.
okay, great.
All right.
And I'll be able to.
And reach out to Matt, see if he wants to, if there's something he wants to pursue or if you
And
can.
if he doesn't, I think it's a valuable conversation. I can keep it sweet
Yeah.
short, but
And I
it
think,
furthers that preservation conversation and the attainable.
sure, and I think we're gonna be able to have it around what Steve was just showing as well, so.
Perfect, yep, that's right.
You said attainable senior housing, and I missed the third one. I was.
Preservation ordinance.
Preservation ones, yeah.
Okay, any other comments before we wrap?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right.
They automatically shut this off.
Can't believe it. It's what I want.
Yeah, I want that.
You're my hero. What's this?
I knew that.
Just basically, I wasn't sure.
Oh.
This is-
All right, I'll-